Power does not punish the ruthless. It rewards them. Look closely at the world around you. The fastest climbers in politics, in business, in life are not the ones clinging to rules written by someone else. They smile in public, shake hands with conviction, and speak of honor and principle. But behind the curtain, they calculate. They turn kindness into camouflage, morality into theater, and loyalty into a tool. And you've been taught to play by the book, to fight fair, to trust that if you keep your side clean, the world will respect you for it. But fairness is a leash soft enough that you barely notice it, strong enough to keep you in place, while others less talented, less deserving, but infinitely bolder cut ahead. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He wrote for men surrounded by predators where hesitation was death and goodness was nothing but an opening for betrayal. He taught that virtue could be sharpened into a blade, that loyalty could be bent without breaking. That survival had nothing to do with being loved, and everything to do with being respected or feared. This isn't a call to become cruel for the sake of cruelty. It's a wake-up call to stop letting someone else's sense of morality decide your fate, because history doesn't remember who played fair, it remembers who won. The world does not reward virtue, it rewards leverage. And leverage is rarely earned by being nice. If you won't take what's yours, someone weaker but braver will. So the question is no longer, what's fair? The question is, what works? And the sooner you start asking it, the sooner you stop being prey and start becoming a player. From the time you could walk, someone was teaching you the right way to live. Play fair. Share equally. Treat others as you want to be treated. It sounded noble. It felt safe. But in the real game, the one played in boardrooms, war rooms, and even living rooms, those rules were not designed to protect you. They were designed to control you. Fairness is not freedom. Fairness is a leash. It's silk on the outside, steel underneath. It keeps you predictable, easy to read, easy to outmaneuver. And while you follow the rules with pride, others far less skilled, far less worthy cut ahead with nothing more than boldness and the ability to strike when you hesitate. Look closely at the ones who rise the fastest. They aren't necessarily smarter. They aren't always the hardest workers. But they have one quality you've been taught to suppress the willingness to move without permission. They smile in public, shake hands, and speak of honor. Behind closed doors, they calculate like generals planning a war. They know that kindness without leverage is a liability. They know that playing fair in a world of predators is the first step toward becoming prey. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He wrote not for dreamers, but for survivors, for men who lived among enemies where hesitation could be fatal, and morality was nothing but an opening for exploitation. He taught them to bend loyalty until it served them, to turn virtue into a blade, to treat survival not as a hope, but as an art form. And his lesson still stands: the world will not respect you simply because you played by the rules. You've been told that fairness is strength. But in power, fairness is weakness, dressed in virtue's clothing. It allows the unworthy to pass you by without guilt. It keeps you arguing with yourself while someone else seizes the opportunity. So the question must change. No more what's fair. That's the language of the powerless. The only question worth asking is what works. Because history does not remember those who played fair. It remembers those who won. And if you can't bring yourself to take what's yours, someone braver and far less deserving will take it for themselves. Ruthlessness is one of the most misunderstood qualities in human history. The weak imagine it as blind cruelty, an uncontrollable urge to harm for pleasure. That's not what it is, and that's why they stay weak. Real ruthlessness is not chaos. It's not rage. It's precision. It's discipline. It is the ability to act without hesitation when the moment demands it, to do what others refuse to do, and to sleep peacefully afterward because you know it was necessary. Every empire, every fortune, every dynasty that dominates today was built not on fair play, but on advantages taken without apology. The winners didn't waste time debating whether their next move was too harsh or too risky. They understood that in the game of power, delay is a death sentence. The battlefield may not always have blood and steel. Sometimes it's conference rooms, courtrooms, or whispered deals. But the principle is the same. Those who hesitate are overrun. Look at history. The leaders remembered as merciful are often the ones who died early or were replaced by someone bolder. The ones who endured were those who understood that mercy has a cost, and sometimes that cost is everything you've built. Machiavelli warned that a ruler who refuses to be ruthless is not merciful but weak. Weakness in power is not forgiven. It is punished. This doesn't mean you swing wildly at everyone in reach. Wild aggression burns bright, then burns out. Strategic ruthlessness is deliberate. It chooses its targets with care. It knows when to strike and, just as importantly, when to stop. The goal is not destruction for destruction's sake. It's to ensure that no one can destroy you. You've been taught that your reputation should be built on kindness. But here's the truth. No one told you a reputation for kindness invites predators. They know you fear appearing cruel. They know you'll hesitate before striking back. That hesitation is fatal. The strategically ruthless win, not because they're smarter or stronger, but because they move when others are still weighing their options. In the arena of power, it's not the loudest voice that dominates, but the one that acts with cold certainty. When you embrace strategic ruthlessness, you stop asking for permission to protect what's yours, and you start making sure that no one, no matter how bold, dares to test you twice. Morality is the luxury of the already powerful. For everyone else, it's a velvet cage, soft enough to lull you into comfort, but still a cage that locks you in place while others roam free. You've been told that doing the right thing will eventually be rewarded, that playing by the rules will guarantee you respect, that your goodness will protect you. But life isn't a moral equation where virtue automatically equals victory. The world doesn't operate on moral balance. It operates on power. Machiavelli understood this with brutal clarity. He didn't write for saints. He wrote for survivors. He knew that morality was a tool, a weapon to be wielded or discarded depending on the situation. He saw that in the game of power, hesitation caused by moral doubt could be fatal. His principle was simple. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. That doesn't mean becoming a tyrant, nor does it mean drowning your enemies in chaos. It means earning a respect so deep, so absolute, that no one questions your ability to do what must be done, even when it's hard, even when it's ugly. Here's the reality. A reputation for kindness may make you loved, but it also makes you predictable. Your enemies will count on your reluctance to act decisively. They will gamble that you'll hesitate rather than risk appearing cruel. And in that hesitation, they will move against you. History is filled with leaders who clung to their morals until those morals strangled them. They spared enemies who later returned stronger. They trusted loyalty that crumbled the moment it was inconvenient. They thought being good was enough to be safe, and they were wrong. True power requires clarity, knowing when morality serves you and when it hinders you. This doesn't mean abandoning principles entirely. It means choosing when to apply them. Mercy, generosity, fairness. These can be powerful tools, but only when deployed from a position of strength, never from weakness. In power, morality is not the compass. Survival is. You don't abandon your humanity, you direct it. You choose moments to be feared and moments to be loved. But you never allow morality as defined by someone else to dictate your fate. Because the truth is harsh in this world, the good are rarely safe, and the safe are rarely good. Power doesn't just live in what you do. It lives in what people believe about what you do. Actions alone are mute. They don't speak for themselves. The weak assume that if they act with integrity, the truth will shine on its own. But truth doesn't survive in the wild without protection. It gets devoured, twisted, rewritten. In power, it is not the action that wins. It is the story told about the action that shapes victory or defeat. And the one who controls that story controls the battlefield without firing a shot. Machiavelli understood that perception is armor. A decisive move is meaningless if the crowd believes it was reckless. A calculated strike can look like cruelty if you allow others to define it. That's why the powerful write the script before anyone else. Can they attach meaning to their actions before their enemies attach poison. They know that once a story takes hold, even lies can harden into truth, and the truth itself can be made to look like a lie. This is why the strategic operator never waits to set the record straight. They set it first. They frame a conquest as defense. They make betrayal look like loyalty. They recast ambition as duty. The timid think actions speak for themselves. The ruthless know actions are voiceless without a narrative. One of the deadliest tactics is to make your enemies guilty before they've moved. Plant seeds that they're greedy before they take. Suggest they're unstable before they act. Then, when they finally make their move, the crowd will say, "We knew it all along. Your work is already done." They've walked straight into the role you wrote for them. The most dangerous narrative is the one that appears to have no author. Whisper it to the right ears and let it spread as though it was born from the people themselves. When your enemies try to expose you, their outrage will sound paranoid, even unhinged. You won't need to crush their accusations with evidence, you'll crush them with ridicule. In the end, perception is not just a tool in the game of power, it is the game. Those who own the narrative don't just win. They make it impossible for others to fight without playing into their hands. If you let others define your moves, you've already lost half the war. Most people fight to control the moment, the blow, the confrontation, the headline. But the truly powerful, they control what comes after. They shape the penalties, the rewards, and most importantly, the memory of what happened. The aftermath is where power is either cemented or dissolved. If you control the consequences, you control the game. Machiavelli understood that winning a battle means nothing if you let others tell the story of that battle. You may crush an enemy today, but if the world sees you as dangerous to everyone, you will unite your enemies against you. The art is to design consequences that teach a lesson, not just punish to make resistance unthinkable, without making yourself the villain in everyone's eyes. History shows us how empires mastered this. Rome didn't simply defeat its enemies, it erased them. It salted the earth so nothing could grow. It rewrote history so that even the names of the defeated vanished. The punishment was not a moment of pain, it was a permanent scar in the collective memory. That's how you must think. Not in terms of winning or losing, but in shaping the story of what happens when someone dares to oppose you. Strategic consequence requires emotional distance. A fool lashes out in anger, making the cost of crossing them unpredictable and therefore ignorable. The wise wait, calculate, and deliver a blow so exact, so instructive that it prevents 10 future betrayals. Sometimes this means striking immediately. Other times it means letting the enemy twist in uncertainty, unsure of when or how you'll respond. You must design relationships so that rewards and punishments flow through you alone. If someone helps you, they must see their benefits come directly from your hand. If someone harms you, they must feel consequences only you could deliver. Never outsource your punishments to luck, public opinion, or chance. If the final act doesn't bear your signature, it's not truly yours. When you control the aftermath, you don't need to shout. You don't need to issue threats. Your reputation speaks in whispers. Whispers that stop people from even considering crossing you. In power, it's not the strike that matters most. It's the echo that lingers after the strike, shaping how the world moves around you. Power is never safe in a vacuum. If the people around you can get what they want without you, your position is temporary. True control comes from creating a system where everything flows through you, rewards, punishments, opportunities, and exits. You become the gatekeeper, the one who decides who eats and who starves, who climbs and who falls. In such a system, loyalty is no longer a matter of principle, it's survival. Those who benefit must see their rewards as a direct gift from you. Those who suffer must understand that no one else could have delivered the blow. This isn't cruelty for its own sake. It's architecture. You are designing the political and psychological infrastructure that makes your presence indispensable. Machiavelli warned against outsourcing the instruments of control. Never let the fate of allies or enemies be decided by chance gossip or public opinion. If someone helps you, the benefit must have your name written all over it. If someone harms you, the cost must feel like a personal reckoning. In this way, you make every outcome in their life, good or bad, trace back to you. Think of the great power brokers in history. They didn't just build armies, they built dependency networks. Wealth, safety, influence, and even reputation became impossible without their hand guiding the flow. This is not about micromanaging every move, it's about making sure that every road leads back to you. Even when you're not in the room, your influence is the gravity holding the orbit together. Dependence is the invisible chain no one resists because it doesn't feel like a chain, it feels like stability. People convince themselves they need you because you've made it true. Over time, they forget where their power ends and yours begins. They stop imagining a world in which you aren't the center of it. That is when control becomes effortless. This is the deep game of power, not just winning a battle or crushing an enemy, but building a living system in which your absence is unthinkable. And in that system, betrayal becomes rare, not because people are loyal by nature, but because the cost of disloyalty is too high, and the alternative life without your protection is too dangerous to consider. The art of power is not in constant force, but in the balance between comfort and fear, the velvet glove and the iron fist. The velvet glove is what they see: warmth, charm, composure. The iron fist is what they know: the absolute willingness to act decisively without hesitation when your position is threatened. Machiavelli understood that the strongest leaders were not those who ruled through open terror every day, but those who created an unshakable belief that crossing them would be disastrous. You don't need to strike often. In fact, the less often you strike, the more devastating each strike becomes. A single act of decisive force executed at the right moment can create years of quiet stability. The masses do not truly respect those who are endlessly kind. They respect those who are strong enough to enforce their will, those who combine restraint with unmistakable resolve. This is why the velvet glove matters. Without it, you look like a tyrant. Without the fist, you look like prey. Together, they create the paradox that commands loyalty and fear in equal measure. Mercy, when it costs you nothing, is a tool. It makes you approachable, human, even likable. But mercy in the wrong moment, when your control is at stake, is an invitation for enemies to grow bolder. If you must strike so completely that the threat cannot rise again, half measures breed defiance. Decisive measures end it. And understand, this power doesn't just live in what you do. It lives in what people believe you can and will do. Your reputation is the silent weapon that works when you're not in the room. If they believe you are capable of ruthless action, they will treat you differently, speak to you differently, approach you with a caution they don't extend to others. Your task is not to be loved, at least not at the expense of being respected. Love is optional. Respect backed by the shadow of the fist is not. Strike rarely, strike hard. And when you do make it a story, they'll tell in hushed voices for years. Because in the game of power, the hand that wears the velvet glove must always be capable of crushing steel. Power is not given to those who follow every rule. It's taken by those who know when to bend them. The lesson here is not to abandon morality, but to understand its limits. In a world driven by ambition, fear, and self-interest, kindness without leverage is an open invitation to be used. If you want to protect what matters, you must be willing to act decisively when it's threatened, even if it makes you uncomfortable. Machiavelli's wisdom is brutally clear. You cannot let someone else's moral code decide your fate. Fairness is admirable in theory, but in practice, it can become a leash. The powerful replace the question, "Is this fair?" with "Will this work?" They prepare before the crisis, so that when the moment comes, hesitation never costs them the win. Controlling perception is just as important as controlling outcomes. People will believe the story that reaches them first and resonates deepest. Shape your narrative before others can. Make your reputation a silent force, a blend of respect and caution so strong that most battles end before they begin. And above all, build a system where your presence is indispensable. Let people know through action, not empty words, that loyalty to you brings reward and betrayal brings consequences. Done correctly, this reduces the need for constant confrontation. Your influence becomes the gravity that holds the entire structure together. In your own life, stop waiting for fairness to deliver results. Protect your boundaries, act when you must, and never apologize for defending your position. Power is not about domination for its own sake. It's about securing your freedom to move without permission. If this message resonated with you, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because the world isn't getting softer, And the sooner you master these principles, the sooner you stop playing the game by rules that were never written for you.